Hey guys, and welcome again to another episode of the Hope Sessions podcast with your boy Jerry D. I have no doubt that by this week's episode you will be refreshed, encouraged, challenged, and motivated as you tune in to enjoy the discussion that I had with this week's guests. Remember that hope is to life as oxygen is to the body, and don't forget, enjoy the show. Hey guys, and welcome again to another episode of the Hope Sessions podcast. This is season 4. And today's guests are really important and actually very special to me. Today's episode, I suppose the topic/title will be before/after the ring. So I wanted to have these guests come on. We're going to talk about their journey to faith in Christ, but we're also going to talk about their journey to how they met each other and what married life is like, to give you guys maybe a behind the scenes look of what married life is like. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you all for your support for the previous episodes. We have been ranked number 4 in the podcast charts in Ireland. Thanks to each and every one of you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. People are hearing about the truth of the gospel through it, and for that, I thank you. But that all aside, Danny and Aoife, welcome to the podcast. How are you guys doing?
Thanks, Jerry, for having us. Good.
Good, thank God. Delighted to be here.
Yes, I am truly delighted to have you guys. I mean, we talk anyway, but I think it's going to be really special, this podcast episode. I definitely think it's going to be something that's going to be very insightful, but also very helpful to people, especially as they navigate through the season of singleness and even marriage and stuff. But what we're going to do is, you guys, Danny, you already know because you've been on the podcast before. We're going to jump into a rapid fire round, but I've switched it up. Instead of asking Danny rapid fire questions about Danny, I'm going to ask Danny rapid fire questions about Aoife, and then I'm going to ask Aoife rapid fire questions about Danny. Sounds like a tongue twister. It is. I'm going to start off with Aoife because ladies first, right?
Oh.
No pressure, Aoife. Danny's favorite meal?
Chinese, hot, garlic, prawn and chili, that dish.
Pretty accurate.
Do I answer?
You can just say yeah or...
Kind of.
Oh,
I would have thought barbecue-based pizza.
didn't think of it.
I would have thought
straight.
that as well. Like that's just the top of the list for me all the time with him, you know.
Okay.
Here's an interesting one. Danny's favorite sport?
Like literally, he hates all sport that takes place on a field or in a court, but he does like wrestling, or you know that fake type of wrestling, WWE or something. Yeah, not fake, but jumping off cages and hitting each other's with chairs. He likes
I
that.
think it's brilliant. Is Danny a morning or a night person?
Oh, he's kind of both, but I'd say morning because he'll easily get up at he's both. He'll get up at 5:45 in the morning, start his day, go to work, come home, and he'll still be going till 11:30 midnight.
Okay. Wow. So he's got a pretty big energy reserve. So
Yeah, definitely.
what's Danny? So Danny, we know Danny reads books, right? But what is his favorite genre or type of books to read?
Oh, it's obviously books about the Bible, but kind of about apologetics and how to defend your faith, and I suppose specific topics in one there you were talking about for a good while is why suffering, so to the apologetic version of all that.
Yeah, that's good.
Brilliant. What's Danny's favorite clothing brand?
Nike, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you got that right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It took me a while. I got him
You've learned.
Adidas. Yeah, for the last the first 3 years of our marriage, I kept getting him Adidas stuff, and it was never worn ever. So Christmas number 4 or whatever, I got him finally.
She
I
got
think
there.
this for Danny is prior to Christ, those days he would have wore Adidas, but now he's come to the good side and he now wears Nike.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, stop.
And the last question, Aoife, you're almost there. What's Danny's favorite thing to do to chill out, to relax? Is there anything particular he likes to do?
He likes listening to podcasts, going to sleep, and watching. Actually, no, do you know what? He loves watching really dark CSI murder, killer, crazy stuff on the telly. He'll even watch it on YouTube to go to sleep at night with his earphones in and pleasantly and peacefully fall asleep watching CSI stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's interesting. Wow. Right. Aoife, you have passed the rapid fire round. By the expression on Danny's face, I think you got 100%, whatever, right in saying that, Dan?
I've just got one wrong.
Food.
Barbecue based pizza. I'm
Yeah.
highly disappointed you got that.
Sorry. Yeah.
We'll let you both have that dialogue off the podcast. You can talk about that for the next couple of days or whatever, right? But Danny, it's your turn now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So you obviously know what Aoife's favorite meal is, but what is her least favorite meal or food to have?
Mushroom soup.
Yeah, well, like I hate mushrooms, but I really, really hate Chinese.
But you'd eat Chinese as well.
I would eat it. Yeah, I suppose I wouldn't eat mushrooms.
So your least favorite.
Yeah.
If my mom presented you with mushroom soup,
Yeah,
you would not be happy.
I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah.
Okay. At least that's cleared up anyway. We're off to a good start, right? What is Aoife's favorite music genre? Or does she have maybe?
I wouldn't say heavy rock, but she has like a weird taste of music. I can't even think of the name of people she likes, but this guy who wears white makeup and black eyeliners and all. What's his name? The Cure. The Cure.
Yeah, Robert Smith from The Cure.
Yeah, she likes kind of soft rock. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Soft rock, not hard rock. Yeah.
Right. Interesting, because I never would
That's
have
a bit more
thought that. I thought you were going to
And
say
Christian music as well, kind of.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say, oh, Beth
Sort of.
worship or something, you know, or because you've got that innocence about you, right? Danny,
Yeah,
what is Aoife's favorite day of the week?
Friday.
Okay.
Friday.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer, right?
Straight.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
what is at
definitely.
the weekend or when Aoife's off work? What is her favorite thing to do to relax, to chill out?
Go for a walk, which I hate.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I went for a walk last night and it started sleeting and snowing. So then Danny had to come and collect me. I was all the way out by Vickers Road.
I had to go rescue you more like because it was quite heavy.
How many feet? 2 or 3 feet of snow, was it?
Yeah, literally.
Wow.
Oh, gas. Yeah, it was
Right,
very
Danny. So we know Aoife reads the Bible. Well, we hope that Aoife reads the Bible, right? What is her favorite book of the Bible? Does she have a particular book or?
I would say Psalms and Ruth was in my head.
I really do like Psalms.
Yeah, like Book of Psalms or Ruth was in my head.
Not Ruth.
No, okay.
I like all the epistles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Psalms and the
So
epistles.
Psalms, yeah, I had one right.
Oh, it's good.
So
Hey, but at least you saved yourself, right? You gave 2 answers and you risked losing one but getting the other one right rather than just putting one and getting it wrong. Right? So
it's a safety net. Yeah.
Hey, exactly. You should have named more. You would have just got there at the end if you had named all 64, right? And the last one, Dan, is Aoife a morning or a night person?
Neither. Neither. Is there another option?
Afternoon?
Yeah, like literally between like 11 a.m. and like 4:30, I will be.
It's our peak time, yeah.
Yeah, anything before after that is just don't ask me any questions at all. Don't even look in my direction.
Fair enough. That's wow. Well, Dan, you I'm pretty sure you've got 100% or you got near enough there. Aoife seems to be pretty happy with the responses you gave as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So guys, we know this is the Hope Sessions podcast. And what I usually do is obviously the topic today is going to be about your journey to faith in Christ and how you both met each other and now you're married and you've got a wonderful son, Joshua. But before we get into any of the questions, I think it would be really awesome for you both to give you both an opportunity to share your story, maybe between 3 to 5 minutes or however long you feel yourself. But I want to start with the ladies first. Aoife, would you introduce yourself? Who are you? How did the Lord come into your life for our guests to hear your story?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was really blessed that I was actually born into a born again Christian family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was always brought up just, I suppose, knowing about God, knowing the verses of the Bible, all your standard Sunday school things. Church was just a very regular part of my life as a child, and we went to a lovely church, the Upper Room. Really great pastor there, Tony Simpson and his wife Anita. And yeah, and my mom and dad were always very active in the church. So, I would have always seen them both serving the Lord, and it was really lovely. Just really, really faithful Christians. I was so blessed to be brought into that home. And always grew up believing in the Lord. And I did, when I was a child, I was literally only like 4 years old, and I do remember speaking with one of my uncles. And I did invite the Lord into my life, but I remember I'd go to bed every night asking Jesus to come in again and again, like every day of the week, and yeah, so it was a very childlike faith. And then I was really, really shy as a child. So I never went to like the camps that would be happening. Stan Beamish would have all his camps and that, like, out in the countryside of Cork and things. And my parents always tried to get me to go. My brother, who's older than me, always went to them, but I was so shy I wouldn't. So I never made any really close Christian friends as a child.
Yeah.
So then my only main friends were the people I had in school, so who were not Christians. I still have like 4 really best friends to today. They're amazing childhood friends. But my friendship circle and social circle was not of Christian influence.
Yeah.
Growing up. So when I was a teenager, I then started working as well when I was 16 in Tesco. And so it meant that I started missing church service. So I do think that had a big impact on my life, because I would have still, even though I wasn't really walking with the Lord, I suppose, from the age, from the age of probably like 14, to 16, I would still go to church with my parents.
Yeah.
But then obviously when work came in, I started working on Sundays, I just fell away completely from the Lord. I completely backslid. So from the ages of 16 to 19, I was completely backslidden, doing everything that the world does.
Yeah.
And then when I was 19, and I could see there was no life in it whatsoever. And I remember having just an experience when I was 19, and I was like, you know what? I was like, if I actually died tonight, I was like, I'm not right with the Lord. I was like, I have not been walking with Him, and I know, and I would be going to an eternity without the Lord, and I fully knew that at 19. And I remember trying to pray, but I was so far from the Lord that I actually even didn't really understand the gospel or His grace. And I actually decided I couldn't pray because I was too bad to pray, that I would have to first try and make myself clean, and then pull up my socks and go to church and try and pray. So that was obviously the opposite of the gospel.
Yeah.
I was that sheep who strayed, I was that one.
Yeah.
And little did I know that my savior was coming for me, though, but I thought I was alone, and I was not alone. And around the same time, my aunt used to go to Donnybrook Church, now obviously Cork Church, the Cork church we attend. In 2011, she invited me a couple of times to go, and I never wanted to go, but then eventually I gave in. I said, look, I'll just go so she'll stop asking me to go.
Yeah.
And I went in on a Sunday morning, and I think it was Pastor John Bailey was preaching that morning. I can't remember what he was even preaching about, but I just remember how the presence of the Lord that was in that room, and just how happy everyone was. And then a couple of young adults, it was one young adult invited me in the church, invited me to go to young adults, and I said, oh yeah, I'll go, but I had no intentions of going. And then Kira Linsky hunted me down, got my number, texted me, rang me, everything, and made sure that I came to young adults that night. And she invited me back every week, week in, week out. She encouraged me to keep going to young adults, and like she'd even meet me at the front door so I wouldn't have to walk in by myself because I didn't know anyone. So she really discipled me into young adults. So thank you, Kira, if you're going to be listening to this. And then there, the Lord just met me. It was absolutely, you know, I mean, it took a good year for me to really kind of even get a grasp of just God's grace and how much He loved me, and you know, and He just started breaking down all these barriers that I built up, you know, and just, yeah, helping me to walk with Him. It took a good year. He had a lot to work with me, so in 2011, and then in 2012, yeah, I just started serving in young adults then in 2012. Um, and I'm there ever since. And the Lord 100% brought me back to Him through just the pastoral care of our church. And to Sharon Donovan at the time was so amazing. Then later it was taken over by Patrick Davin. Amazing. Just, we have such amazing church. You know, we're so blessed. And yeah, the Lord brought me back to Himself through young adults, you know, essentially. And yeah, that is my story. Thank you, Lord.
I love it. Wow. Do you know what I love? I actually didn't, it just dawned on me there as you're sharing your story about how the Lord really won you back to Himself through the ministry of young adults. And now to look at it in years later, you're actually a leader in the young adults ministry alongside Danny. I think that's awesome. That's a wonderful testimony to see. Just the Lord has done something beautiful there, and I really think that's worth celebrating, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Danny,
Yeah,
on to
praise
you
God.
now. Same thing again, Dan. Some of our guests may know who you are. There may be new listeners checking it out. Who is Danny? What was his journey to faith like?
Yeah. Obviously, some people listening would have heard my story. There's podcasts made for it. But briefly, grew up in a good home, the same home you did, Jerry.
Really?
Always had what we wanted. Always there was always love there. There was always kindness there for us, and all the usual carrying on with brother and sister fights and everything else. Just a normal kind of household, if you like. And years later in school, I suppose I always felt I couldn't connect with people. I always felt left out and, in a sense, bullied to a certain degree, and never felt accepted by people. And that obviously developed then into a desire for acceptance and looking for acceptance in the wrong areas in life, and led me into a place of addiction, complete bondage and complete isolation then from everyone else, from my family. And it just led to such a downhill spiral, if you like, of just disaster and destruction, if you like, you know, just being kicked out of our home and just, you know, just not caring about anybody, just not even caring about myself, just wanting to just live the way I wanted. And, you know, even that came to a place where I didn't want to even live that life anymore. I wanted to commit suicide. It had me in such a dark place and such a wicked place that I thought I could never get out of. And but long story short, went into a rehabilitation center just to get clean for a few weeks, to have somewhere to stay, because the hostel I was staying in at the time I'd been kicked out of for trying to commit suicide, and they wouldn't let me back in. So my next option was into a treatment center, get back on the good books with my family so they can let me back into the home. And of course that didn't work out according to my plan. There was other plans in place for me which I had never known about, and it was actually the Lord had brought into effect the plan that He had for my life, and unknown to me. In the treatment center, it was a Christian based center, Teen Challenge. And like I said, I went in not wanting to get free from drugs, just wanting to get back on the good side of my family and go back out and continue from where I left off. But I experienced something in there that I never experienced before. I always believed in God, but I never thought that God could love me, that God only loves good people, people who attend church, people who say the rosary, people who go to confession regularly. And God only loves those sort of people. And I was far from that type of person. So God didn't love me. But it was in there where I experienced the love of God, which completely transformed my life. just made me accept myself firstly, which was a big miracle because I could never even look in the mirror at myself. I hated who I was, the person who I'd become, the people I hurt. But the gospel impacted my heart. And yeah, I was in there for 16 months, loved every minute of it. Well, not at the start, obviously. It was difficult learning how to cope with life without drugs, and so that was difficult. But the Lord, when I met him in there, and his strength sustained me throughout, and finished there 16 months later, and moved to Cork. Then I just wanted to live for the Lord completely. It was incredible. It was like I was born again. Basically, it was the complete expression of being born again. It was a whole new life. I seen colors that I never seen before, and I just wanted to continue on that way. So I moved to Cork, signed up for a 2-year ministry school, loved it, done an internship in our church, and yeah, just God done amazing things in my life. And so it brought me here today to where we are now, I suppose, married and one child later, and just the Lord is great throughout. Yeah.
Awesome. And I love it. I actually never get tired of hearing your story, because I actually remember many nights when you were kicked out of our house, when, remember, my bedroom was at the backyard, and you'd have to take dad's ladders that were like the wrestling ladders. They're like 50 feet high, and at like 20 past 3 in the morning, the window just dump. I'm like, who's knocking on the window? And I open the window, and Danny's there. He's like, shh, open the door. And you'd have to creep in then to allow you to come upstairs to the room, because if dad or mom, they used to lock the door and hide the key so you wouldn't be able to. So I find it funny that way, just how you were banging on the door and that. But yet me, because you were my brother, regardless of what you've done, I was always like, I have to let him in, because what happens if I don't? What if something mad happens or whatever, right? But it's just funny to look back on it now. I know we talked about it on the previous podcast, but it's worth recalling and smiling about now in light of what the Lord has done. But so guys, we're going to jump into a bunch of questions I have on the topic. So the topic is before/after the ring. So the first question is, it seems basic, but I think it's right to start off with a basic question, and you can both give as much input as you wish, or if one person answers it enough, you can look at each other and just go, good job, or or whatever you want. But the first question I have is, how did you guys meet each other?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah. We first met each other when we were both working in the kids club, or helping in a kids club on the Friday in our church, first in the Donnybrook building and then in the new Cork Church building. And we were often rostered together. I'd say there was a bit of, tweaking with the roster from the person who used to make the roster at the time. And I used to always be put on the craft for the kids, and so Danny was my partner, and like Danny would text me like every Friday being like, hey, are you coming in tonight? Are you on your way in? I was like, hey, I'm just leaving college. I'll be like 45 minutes to like an hour and a half to like 2 hours late. You just I was late every single week for kids club. I don't know. Oh, it was crazy. So I apologize. That was the first bit of me. And also in the original building, Donnybrook, I was the reason why glitter was completely banned from being used in kids club, because I used to bring tubs of glitter with me every week, and like somehow it would make its way up to like the pulpit. So I apologize. And that's when me and Danny first met each other, not in a romantic way though, just serving alongside each other.
Wow. And then I suppose off the back of that,
I let Aoife go first, so I can be reminded.
Oh yeah.
Go on, sorry, Jay.
Off the back of that question, right? So you talked about how you met each other, and obviously you said it was just more so on a friend kind of a basis. I suppose, how long did it take for the romantic aspect to come in? Did you both kind of like each other, or did one person like each other and then the Lord had to convict the other person that you should like this person, or what was that process like?
It was 2011, the end of 2011 when this.
What time was it at?
I know, 7:40.
It was in 2011, so no, I remember when I first moved to Cork, was actually Aoife was the first kind of girl that I was like, you know, kind of seeing her, and it was like, there's potential. Yeah, there's potential there. And I remember, of course, I had messaged her, of course, because this is what we do. We don't talk in person, we have to message. But I was messaging Aoife anyway, and we were just talking about general stuff. And I don't even know how the topic came up, but I had said to her, I was like, I might even find my wife down here, kind of like nudging, like, would you like to go for a coffee kind of thing, But Aoife, of course, being Aoife, she just brushed it off, said nothing in response, and we just continued on about our lives. And what was the question again?
How did the romantic?
Oh yeah, romantically. Okay, yeah. So that was the start when I first moved to Cork. Was that me seeing Aoife, trying to hint to her, but she brushed it off, and we continued doing what we were doing, serving kids' church and just loving the Lord. And I suppose it was probably years later then that, like I said, we were always just alongside each other in kids' church, and we never really looked at each other in a romantic way. Well, for me anyway, I don't know.
Well, you see, when you first messaged me, it was funny because when Danny first came to the church, he came the day of our creation conference that we had in the old building, and I was serving tea and coffee in the annex. And I remember Danny came in, and I was like, I kind of like fancied him straight away. but then when he started messaging me on Messenger, I don't know what was wrong with me. I was on a weird super spiritual buzz. I was kind of like, I don't need a man. I'm just focusing on the Lord. And I was like, and the Lord will bring my husband just then, and whenever it is, he'll just bring my husband. I'm sure forward on a couple of years' time, Danny was my husband. He was there messaging me saying, I'm going to find my wife in Cork. Is my husband. Yeah. And sure, I brushed it off, and I was like, he obviously doesn't mean that. And then I just like didn't respond, even though we had been chatting for like a week or so, and then I just stopped responding.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
women
really...
and their thoughts.
Yeah. Wow.
But the Lord obviously had his plan.
Yeah.
There was a reason why.
And even in light of that, Dan, right? So you messaged Aoife, right? And you were hinting, but also trying to get a conversation with her. I might maybe find my wife down here. When she ghosted you, which is the term of basically you get to a point in a conversation where someone just hears a question and they kind of go the other way. Did that annoy you? Did it cause you to kind of think creatively? How were you going to ask her again or bring up the conversation again, or was it just like whatever?
No, I suppose I felt like a bit awkward whenever I seen her again. Then I was like, oh, that kind of way, because she didn't respond. So
exactly. And we didn't message then ever again. That was in like 2012.
Yeah, it was like the topic was never discussed again.
Ever. It was just very casual. Hi, how are you? Grand. Even though we had the same group of friends, so we'd often see each other all the time, but never ever speak on one-on-one level, probably because that awkwardness happened like a couple of years beforehand.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's mad.
But, it's funny because at that time it wasn't the right time. Do that's why it didn't come about. It's just in the plan of God. Like, it's amazing how his plan and his timing always prevails, because it was just then through the influence of friends that kind of prompted an interest in Aoife. I remember it was just like one day I remember just seeing her in a different light. I seen her not just from, I suppose, her godliness in a sense, just always loving the Lord and always putting the Lord first, and it was attractive, and it was just like one day, like that veil was just lifted, and I seen her in a way that I never seen her before, and started to pursue that then, and obviously I got a response then.
That was in 2015, and it was funny because I hadn't ever looked at Danny in a romantic way ever again, from even the first time when we were kind of messaging back and forth in 2012. It wasn't in a romantic way. It was kind of like, oh, I kind of fancy him. He's kind of good looking. He's a nice Christian. But, there was nothing kind of deeper than that. But in 2015, I remember a friend just had said to me, they were like, are you interested in any guys? And I was like, no, no. I was like, never looking at guys again, whatever. I don't need a man and all this silly talk. And then they were like, what about Danny? I was like, no, no. I was like, no. I was like, I don't think he'd ever like me or I'd ever like him. And then I couldn't get that out of my head. And then I realized, like, it was about a week later, and I'm still thinking that in my head. And then I remember he preached in young adults. And this was like January, late January of 2015. And he preached on Lazarus, and that this sickness isn't unto death, and it was just, but I knew already for that week that okay, I definitely like Danny. This is not just a thing, because I couldn't shake what that person in my head said. And then I remember I was praying about it, and I never ever would talk to my mom about guys, but I remember I told her, I was like, Mom, I was like, I like this guy in church, and I was like, but I don't know if he likes me. And I was like, but I've prayed about it. My mum was like, yeah, just pray, lucky, if it's the Lord's will, and then if it's not the Lord's will, that He'd take it away. And I was literally praying that if Danny, I wasn't praying like, oh Lord, bring me and Danny together. I was like, Lord, I was like, okay, it's clear now, I definitely like Danny. And I was like, but Lord, please take it away, fully close the door, like just take these feelings away, or let me know like that he doesn't like me if it's not your will. I was like, because I don't want these feelings to fester or go on any longer if it's not your will. I literally only wanted someone, that the person that the Lord wanted for me.
Yeah.
And I was very bold in my prayer, because I was kind of like at my wits' end, like with guys from like 2013 on. I was like, never looking at a guy, I'm single, I'm like a single, powerful woman, I don't need anyone, and all this. Very, but it was just a stage I was going through. But I kept my head down and I was just serving the Lord. And then I remember I was like, okay, Lord, I don't want this to go on like any longer if it's not you. I hate the chase. I don't want any texting to happen. I was like, please, Lord, if it's not your will. I was very bold. I actually prayed that I was hoping to see Danny in church on a Wednesday. He had preached that Sunday on the Lazarus, and it was a powerful sermon. And then I was like, Lord, if it's your will that me and Danny should date, I was like, please, Lord, let him ask me out for a coffee on Wednesday. Yeah, and then I was like, and look, Lord, your will be done. I'd never ever prayed such a bold prayer before. And went to church Wednesday. Danny wasn't there. I think he was like working or something. And Danny was literally in church every single Wednesday. I was like, oh, okay, that's it, that's grand. So, and I kind of got the picture, and I went home, and I was just I turned off my mobile data was off because I was going to sleep, and it had been off for like an hour or two during church. And then I was like, oh, I'm just going to turn it on, because I had to like reset my alarm and check something for college the following morning.
Yeah.
And as I turned on my mobile data, a message came in from Danny, and it was like 11:10 at night. And he was like, hey, Aoife, Danny here. Would you like to go for a coffee with me? Me and Danny hadn't had contact through messaging since like 2012, where he would have messaged me directly.
Wow.
And like I was like, oh my gosh. And you see, I'm very nervous with things like that. Usually, even if I wanted to go for coffee with someone, I'd say no. But I knew that if he asked me to go for coffee, I would say yes. And but first I just messaged back saying, hey, is this definitely Danny? Like, because I thought like maybe it's someone just pranking me and it'd be really embarrassing. And he was like, yeah, of course it's Danny. Who else would it be?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, just checking. I was like, yeah, I'll definitely go for coffee with you. And then we went out for coffee on the Friday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
the honesty. I love the fact that you're so good with your dates. I think that's class. Like, you're able to just name off. No, for real. Like, I can't remember what I've done this morning, and it was only a couple of hours ago. But you're able to just rattle off dates and months and even the sermon he preached. Like, For real, that's got to be an encouragement to you, Dan, that you've got a wife who's got a very good memory.
It's a woman thing, man.
Yeah.
Women are so good with dates.
Oh yeah.
I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
The
what was
next question I have
interesting,
is, sorry, did you want to say something?
sorry, the only thing I
Sorry.
wanted to say is me and Danny hadn't looked at each other romantically for all those years.
Yeah.
And then it was like the same 2-week period that I started looking at him differently. He started looking at me differently.
Mm.
You know, it was that exact same 2 weeks. And before that, we hadn't even, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
So the Lord.
yeah, it's truly is the Lord. I love how Danny even talked about how the plan of God at the right time begins to flourish, begins to become a bit more realized in our lives. You know, we begin to see that He's making things straight that were once crooked, right? And as now that you guys are married, is there something that marriage has taught you both that you didn't know about marriage when you're single? Because obviously when you're single, like, you know, like me, I've got weird ideas about marriage and all this stuff. And then when you get married, it's a different ball game. Is there maybe anything that you both have discovered about marriage that either was or wasn't true when you were single?
Yeah. I suppose, yeah, I suppose, I don't know if all lads think the same, but there's definitely that thought like, oh, when I get married now, it's going to be great. And, you know, things are going to be, you know, a lot real spicy. And, you know, we're going to be swinging out a chandelier every night of the week. And, you know, it's going to be all this hot stuff. And, you know, it's not like that. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't need to be like that, you know, like, I think that's one thing that lads probably in particularly think marriage is like. It's like, woo, you know, like I'd say to any guys listening, it's not like that. Okay, it's not, and it doesn't need to be like that. You know, that's not the whole purpose of marriage. You know, so I think that's definitely a thing that people think what marriage is like, but then it's actually not as you think. You know, I don't know. Do you have any other?
Yeah. Before I was married, you know, when I first came back to the Lord, I always thought that, okay, when I'm married, you know, I'll be complete. And it's like, I always kind of thought that two halves make a whole.
Yeah.
They definitely do not. It's two whole individuals with their own separate identities in the Lord, their own life dedicated to the Lord, serving the Lord. Giving all their issues individually to the Lord, coming together, make a union, you know, that's held together, you know, by the Holy Spirit. But and that's it. And I think that's definitely the reason why the Lord maybe never allowed us to go ahead in 2012, waited till 2015, because there were some deep things in my life, you know, that the Lord is working out, and in Danny's life. And then I think when we were both in a place, you know, then the Lord brought us together. But definitely two whole people make you know, our marriage material. Not if you're seeking a husband or a wife because you feel slightly not fully satisfied with your life. You know, it's that satisfaction only comes from the Lord alone, you know, and then I think you're ready to get married.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I actually think what you both said is very valid. I like the fact that you said that about swinging off the chandeliers, because you're true. Not some guys, every guy thinks about that. Some people overthink about that, other people just give it a brief thought, but it's true. And you guys have been married since April 2017. I hope I'm right. I believe I'm right. And so far, what has been maybe some of your favorite memories since then? Is there a particular trip, or was there a particular situation that had maybe come up that you both helped each other journey through it, I suppose? Has there been favorite memories since then? Probably is many.
Yeah, there's been many, but definitely I think one is really cool about being married is, like, I know for myself, when I come home from work after having, you know, just a real stressful day at work, and just coming home, sitting down with your best friend, and being comfortable with not having to say anything. Do you know, like, just, do you know when you're just exhausted from your day and you don't even want to talk to anybody, but you want to be with someone, and obviously being with Aoife and not being able to, and because I don't want to speak, being okay with that, you know, being in the presence of someone where you don't feel that you have to say stuff, you know, you're comfortable with who your company, you know, because you know your company is fully supporting you and fully with you, you know, that kind of way. So I think that's definitely continues to be not even just a memory, but just a constant in our marriage, is just that friendship and that just I suppose acceptance, like, you know, just coming home, sitting down, just chilling with your best friend, you know. I think that's one of the greatest things about marriage. Not even trying to be cliche or trying to be, you know, it's a reality in marriage, like, you know. That's it's amazing, it really is.
Yeah, you don't have to perform, like, because in every other aspect of life, to a certain degree, you have to dress nicely and brush your hair and perform. But yeah, in marriage, you can just fully be yourself and vulnerable. But if I'm to pick a moment or a memory, I absolutely loved our trip to Israel. I think it was amazing. Really, even helped give me, you know, context for like Bible and where things took place. And I shared that with Danny. That was amazing. But what tops it all was just being in the delivery room when Joshua was coming into this world, and it was just it's like time stood still, and it's just the most. And again, like that, there is no performance. It is raw life at its rawest. But it was just amazing, and it's only we have shared that together. You know, and no one else can ever even try and imagine what that's like. Only if you're there together, and it's just amazing.
That's awesome. And in marriage, there's you know, obviously arguments and that happen, right, and disagreements, because it's two polar opposite people with different personalities, different interests and stuff. I want to ask you this question: who is the first to say sorry?
Who would you say?
I'd say Danny is, Danny.
Yeah, probably am.
Yeah.
Is that because you're a bit more stubborn with that, or is it just the way?
Yeah. See, sometimes even if I know I'm wrong, I'm stubborn. It just takes me a little. Not even that I hold on to it for any period of time. Like, we never ever go to sleep having had like an argument, or when something needs to be sorted out, like, because you're not going to sleep well. That's a very, very good piece of advice that we were given. And don't ever go to sleep angry, you know, and just pray about it. But yeah, definitely Danny, like, sometimes I can just, you know, I might just be tired or hungry, or, you know, it's usually a silly reason, and then I'm just a bit odd. But now I've learned to tell Danny in advance if I feel like that like he can't mind read. So we've gotten a lot better at communicating. Well, I just need to realize that Danny can't read my mind. And even if the smallest thing happens, some days I could be in like a bit of a bad mood if I'm really tired. And I just say, look, Danny, I was like, I'm really like on edge. I'm so tired. Like, so the smallest thing will set me off. I'm just letting you know in a warning way, just like don't even just like look at me or talk to me for like a while. Do you know, that kind of way, instead of just him doing something and then I fly off the handle and get really annoyed and odd. Do you know what I mean? Because it's more so me not being able to control my emotions when I'm really tired or hungry or something. But yeah, definitely it's me learning to communicate to Danny is what has helped our marriage a lot. I think.
But even I think, not even to say that I'm like a perfect representation of what a husband should be or that, but I think it should always be that way, that the husband would say sorry first, you know, because I think there's a huge responsibility on us as a husband, because in Ephesians, how it speaks of how we as husbands are to love our wives as Christ has loved the church and has given himself up for her, you know. So that's huge responsibility, that the way Christ has loved us and given himself up for us, knowing that we have done wrong, knowing that we have cursed him and continually turn our backs on him, yet he still went and gave himself for us. That's how us as husbands should be with our wives, is that we, even if Aoife is completely wrong,
Yeah.
which happens a lot, but even if she is wrong, I have the responsibility as a husband that I would give up my life, give up my rights, give up my rightness
Yeah.
for the sake of her.
Yeah.
You know, so I do think that all husbands should be the first to say sorry,
Yeah.
even if you're wrong, you know, regardless of your right and wrong, that you should, as the husband, as someone giving up your life for your wife, as
Yeah.
Christ gave his life for the church, that we would be the first to say sorry. You know,
Yeah.
so I do think there's some biblical truths to that. Not saying again that I'm a perfect husband. It doesn't always go that way. You know, sometimes I don't say sorry, you know, but I do really do think that there is a command there in the scriptures for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I suppose to piggyback off that question about sorry, you know, and Aoife, you talked about how your emotions, you know, you'd be on edge. Then Danny's saying sometimes he won't say sorry, that he's tired and he's happy enough just to not say words. There's 5 love languages, right? And I only discovered this recently because obviously I'm single, so I don't really read love books or stuff like that. But there's 5 of them. One of them is a word of affirmation. The second one is quality time. The third one is physical touch. Fourth one is acts of service, and the fifth one is receiving gifts. And in your marriage, guys, does knowing someone's love language help with the communication process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does.
Yeah.
Does.
Definitely.
It's definitely, I suppose, if we're honest, it's probably an area that we're still working on. You know, because you know we're humans, like we're so sinful, we're so, do you know what I mean? We're constantly in our own bubble, in our own minds, in our own feelings, and what we want, what we need. You know, so it's a lifelong thing trying to work that out, like, you know. But there is, like, you do really have to consciously think about it. Say, okay, I know Aoife likes me spending time with her, so I need to stop being focused on the gym or reading or even doing extra hours in work. And you know, you have to be very make a conscious decision of to what my wife needs, you know, what she needs from me. So it's a lifelong battle. I think we'll always be wrestling with that, and we'll just get better as we go along.
Yeah, because definitely I think Danny's love language is words of affirmation. And yeah, whereas I would be acts of service and spending quality time. So often, so like I work, you know, obviously Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday and Tuesday I do like all of the housework. I do Joshua's meal prepping, I do dinner shopping. I literally do everything on Monday and Tuesday, cleaning the 2 bathrooms, hoovering, 3 loads of washing every single Monday and Tuesday. This is what I'm doing, and I am like exhausted. But that's how naturally I kind of almost want to receive love. It's someone doing even just the most mundane things, but I do it because I love Danny, and so I'm showing him I love him. But then, so I need to consciously remember then at the end of the day, Danny sometimes can walk in and his love language is not acts of service. Like, he doesn't mind like if the place is messy sometimes, or maybe if the washing isn't done on time, you know. But then sometimes when we first got married, I'd be like, he doesn't see everything I've just done and he doesn't appreciate it, but I did it because I love him. And he's just walked in and not said anything. And then I've like meal prepped a week of dinners and then made a dinner for tonight, and he probably doesn't even like the dinner or didn't say he liked it, you know. And I put my love into it. But you see, then I need to remember that Danny actually has learned that that is how I show love. So then he does appreciate it and he acknowledges it. But I need to realize that Danny needs to, rather than just me doing things for him and keeping like the house afloat, I suppose, that I need to tell him, Danny, I love you, I respect you, you did really well today, you know, you're a great father. He needs to hear those words, because only then does he realize that I love him, because that's his language. And I have a different language, so we definitely have to consciously remember that all the time, you know. Because then we don't get hurt and upset, you know. It just, so that it's a huge communication.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes here. by the way.
Yeah. Just mental notes, physical notes. He's putting it everywhere. He got it tattooed on his arm next week. But I love just the response you both gave, because that really gives an insight into how love languages play out in married life. You know, it's easy in your single life to kind of, oh, love language, you really do, you're all in love. But I want to move on to this question. I'm going to ask you both this individual question, because I'm single and I have been since I was like 17. So I've never had a girlfriend who was a Christian. So the next girl I marry, by the grace of God, will be my wife. Or sorry, the next girl I date would be, by the grace of God, my wife. Do you know? But I'm going to say it, right? And I can say it because I'm a single guy. People have made the dating or the courtship process of a guy and a girl going for coffee or lunch, or a guy texting a girl, or when you see you together, can put unnecessary pressure on people in the dating process. Their friends mean well, but sometimes your friend needs to back off and support you in the crowd more so than as your manager, trying to tell you, oh, do this, do this. But I'm going to ask you both this question. Aoife, I'll ask you first because you're a lady, and I think you can really speak to some of the ladies list. Well, not think, I know you can. What advice would you give to the girls/women during their dating process, as someone who has gone through it and now you're married and have a kid?
Definitely always pray when you're dating as well, and pray about the person. Um, you know, but there's literally no harm in a coffee. How are you going to get to know someone? Do you know what I mean? If you only see like other guy Christians when you're in church and at events and in young adults, it's a fantastic way to meet people. It's really good to size up people where they are in their walk with the Lord and stuff. So definitely keep going to them. But I think you do need to spend some one-on-one time as well with people. If you really want to get to know people, just go for a coffee. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. You're not signing a contract there and then by going for a coffee, you know. And yeah, don't feel like you're going to be looked down on for going for a coffee. It is just coffee.
Yeah. What about you, Dan? What advice would you give to the guys?
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of something there now. It's after going up my head. Definitely, I think there's a level of, you know, I suppose swallowing your pride, and actually going out and asking somebody for a coffee, like, you know, like what Aoife was saying, that like, don't be afraid of it, like, you know, it's a good thing. All it is just a coffee, you know. You're just going out, having a chat, having a conversation, basic conversation, you know. You're not going out and what's your 5-year plan questionnaire, you know. It's general chit chat. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think a lot of guys, I think, are afraid of that, even that initial asking, you know. So I think there's got to be a level of swallowing your pride, you know, getting over yourself and asking a girl out, you know. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And what else would I say? Yeah, I had something in my head while Aoife was speaking, but it's after going out of my head. But definitely do, yeah, like it's a healthy thing, you know. If you have a desire to be married, and it's something that you it's in your heart, you know, ask somebody out, you know. It's a healthy thing. There's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, it's a great thing, you know. But again, you got to swallow your pride and ask.
It's true, you know. And there's this thing, if you look on Netflix or podcasts, you know, there always seems to be a show with especially around the topic of dating, with the one in inverted brackets. Do you guys believe in the concept of the one, as in there's only one person for you to marry?
I do, yeah. I do, definitely. Yeah, 100%, because like, obviously, like, I have gone on previous dates before Aoife, and nothing ever came out of it, you know. And even just how this is obviously is different for everyone, but this is our story, and how when I first moved to Cork, I reached out to Aoife because there was an interest there, but it wasn't the right time, you know, because I believe that Aoife is the one. It's the one that God has ordained for me, and you know. So I definitely do believe that, wholeheartedly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do believe that there is that one person that the Lord has for you. And you know, and I think even when you are married, once you're married, no matter what goes on, once you can give it to the Lord, and once you have, I think, good Christian counsel around you,
Yeah.
we have amazing leadership in the church. We did an amazing pre-marriage course with even Pastor Stephen, and I think when you have even when you're accountable to even a pastoral team, we're really lucky. We have a very diverse pastoral team in our church. You know, no matter what ups and downs you might go through in marriage, you can get through it once you're both willing, and
Yeah.
once you always um consciously put the Lord first in everything. You
Mm.
know, it's literally it's the Lord first, and then it's our marriage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know, and Joshua, but the Lord comes first in everything. You know, so no matter what happens through life, that one person, you can get through anything once you're both in a place where you're allowing the Lord to take the reins of any situation, you know. And we're even really looking forward to going to Pastor Neil Rhodes and his wife's seminar, you know, this Wednesday and Friday in church. We can't wait because sure, they have an amazing testimony. They are a witness to the Lord that, you know, that this one is a real thing, you know, because it's the one that the Lord has. And it's just, you know, so praise God, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what, guys? I don't think you realize I'm enjoying this podcast so much because I'm one of those weird people, right? Who I'm single, but I can't wait to go to the marriage conference either. Right now, I'm reading a book right now
Yeah.
by an author called Ben Stewart, right? It's called Single, Dating, Engaged, and Married. And what he does is he walks through different passages of scripture that talk on these topics. And for me, it's actually helping me be better equipped when my wife will come into that plan, as Danny so wonderfully shared about the plan of God becoming a bit more realized, you know, and even this conversation
Mhm.
for me has greatly helped me to hear about my brother and his wife and what their journey to being married is like, because I want to be better prepared and know how to approach dates, because it's like you said, Dan, it's that idea of swallowing your pride is the hardest thing for a guy to do, because a guy would probably rather send you a text and ask you to your face. I think people are better at taking rejection over a text than face to face. But I definitely think what you guys share today is A plus.
Mhm.
Honestly, I've loved it every second. I really thank you so much for sacrificing your day off on a Saturday when you could be out enjoying one another's time together while Emma looks after Joshua for you guys. But you give up an hour of your time to be a blessing to me and everyone that listens. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you so much, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Can I just one last thing, and I promise I won't say anything else again. I
Work away.
remember I was talking to someone last year, a lovely, lovely Christian young adult in our church, and I remember they said that I just can't wait till I'm married because they feel like they're missing out in life because they're single. And I remember I said to this person, I was like, marriage is amazing. It's the Lord giving you a partner that you walk through life together. But I was like, you don't it's almost a human condition. It's like, even, you know, when you're single, it's like, oh, only when I have a boyfriend, you know, I'll be there, I'll have made it, and I'll feel satisfied. Then when you have a boyfriend, it's, oh, when I'm engaged, when I'm married, when that happens, you know, I'll feel satisfied. It's always the grass is greener on the other side. But that's more so the human condition. We just need to go back to the Lord. Sure, when you're married, you're like, it's like, oh, we're married now. Okay, I thought I'd feel satisfied, but maybe it's just when we have children, or then when you have one child, oh, maybe when we have two children, and then sure, oh, you buy a house. Oh yeah, well, maybe now just we need the bigger house, you
Yeah.
know, or like something. It's just
Unending.
that never goes away. That's something that we always, as a human condition with our sinful nature, just have to give to the Lord, you know, and be content with little and a lot as the Lord walks with you through life. You know, marriage isn't the answer to that remedy. The answer to that remedy is just going back, fixing your eyes on the cross, you know, because it's actually not about this life, it is about eternity. You know, that's the remedy for that.
Mm.
Yeah. Do you have any final points, Dan? Maybe you'd like to say a point or some encouragement? I know that it's up to yourself.
Yeah. I think even touching on something what Aoife was just saying there, I think, like, especially for guys, I think if you feel that your life is lacking, you know, because you are single, if you're in that place where you feel that if I only just had a girlfriend,
Yeah.
that things would be so much more better. it really is it's a huge deception, you know.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of the enemy's cunning
Mhm.
tactics is this whole area of relationships. If I just had a girlfriend, things would be so much better. And it's the truth is it wouldn't. It actually wouldn't, because if that's your thought pattern, and you do end up in a relationship with someone, and you do end up getting married, and things just won't, that void that's in your life will still be there.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you're bringing that into potentially what could, do you know what I mean, could cause such destruction in someone's life, you know, because you're bringing that baggage with you. So how do you counter that baggage or that outlook? And like, because I was in that place where if I just had a girlfriend, my life would be so much more better. And I was in a weird place like that for a number, well, I wouldn't say years, but definitely a period in my life as a Christian. And you know, going on dates and dates not working out, and you're just you're feeling discouraged and down, and it becomes this identity that you're trying to pursue, you know. But I just encourage anyone who probably is in that place where if you just had a girlfriend, that your life would be so much better. And I would just encourage you to get back on in the good way of seeking the things of God.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds so cliche, but it really is the truth. You know, this has to be our main focus, our main drive in life is, look, start serving in the church. Maybe just start see whatever church you're even involved in, just ask the pastors, look, is there any way I can help out, whether it be cleaning up or even serving in the kids' church, whatever capacity. You know, start serving in the things of God, and you know, let that be your drive, let that be your focus. And like, if you do have that desire to be in a relationship, I do believe it's a God-given desire. You know, there is there is going to be a time in your life where God will put you into a relationship with that person who He has for you. You know, there, like, if that is a desire in your heart, like, it's going to happen, but just not in the time that you want it. So I'd say just continue pursuing the things of God, and as the scriptures say, that all these things will be added. You know, and it's the truth. Definitely for our lives anyway, we've experienced that. Not that we're a successful married couple or anything like that. We're still going through problems and we still have issues, but the one thing is that we're together and that we're working through them together, you know. And obviously with the Lord as well, who's the center of it. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Just
the Lord isn't finished with us, and He will finish what He started. And just like you referenced the book of Ruth earlier, Ruth kept her head down. She was working in the field, and Boaz noticed her, you know. So it's
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I definitely think, I suppose the best way to sum up this episode, even just thinking of it now, with just how you guys shared your story, your journey with marriage, is it could be summed up this way: the right guy / girl at the wrong time is still the wrong person, because the plan of God, the right time hasn't come about yet. You know, and I suppose it is that thing, isn't it, of it, as cringy as it sounds, embracing or enjoying the season of life that you're in. If you're single, be productive. I mean, I was even thinking, like, if I was married, I probably couldn't release merch, videos, podcast, my book, album, because it's my money now. But when I'm married, two become one, which means your finance, your time, your energy, your commitment. So enjoy your undivided attention and commit it to the Lord and whatever it is He's put in your hand until that woman or that man comes into your life. I suppose that's probably a fair enough way to sum it up. Would I be right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then wait till you have children.
Yeah.
That'll need a whole other podcast.
You think you were selfish when you just got married. Yeah. But even having a child is class, because it's like our son Joshua is like the fruit of the two of us becoming one. You know, he's 50% Aoife, 50% me. He's the fruit of us becoming one, that union of marriage. And you know, it's amazing, just even the fact of being parents. That does need another podcast for, because there's so much to say about it. Just the pictures of how you view God, and when you become a parent, and just it changes your whole outlook in life. But
absolutely. Guys, you are absolutely fabulous, the both of you. I really appreciate and love you both dearly. Whether I say it enough or not, I'm saying it on this podcast, and everyone who listens to it can hear it. Thank you again for your time. And guys, for those of you that have checked out this podcast, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this podcast. Share it with a friend, a family member, whoever, and spread the message about this podcast episode. I really believe it's been a great blessing to me, and I believe it will be a great encouragement to you. Until next time, take care, and don't forget, hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. And when I talk about hope, I'm not talking about a concept, an idea, or a theory. It's about the person and the work of Jesus and who he is in both mine and your life. Till next time, take care. God bless. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Hope Sessions podcast. Why not share with your friends, family, neighbors, and work colleagues? And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this greatly helps to spread the message about the Hope Sessions podcast. But till next time, take care and enjoy your week. And remember, the hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. Take care.